Tonight, we say goodbye to 2025. It was a year of momentous change in the world, and especially for the Church, who in the span of less than a month lost a Holy Father and then elected a new one. EWTN News' Benedict Sedegren reports.
It was a quiet start to what would become a monumental and historic year for the Catholic Church. On Christmas Eve 2024, Pope Francis opened the Holy Door of St. Peter's Basilica, marking the beginning of the Holy Year and inaugurating the 2025 Jubilee of Hope. During the Holy Year, the Pope prayed, "May the light of Christian hope illumine every man and woman," as a message of God's love addressed to all. But Pope Francis would go on to suffer several health challenges. On February 14th, he entered the Gemelli Hospital with bronchitis and respiratory issues. He stayed for 38 days, the longest hospitalization of his papacy. But he wasn't completely out of the public eye. The Holy Father even celebrated Mass as he wore an alb and stole, giving faithful a sign of hope for medical improvement. After a 5-week stay in the hospital, Pope Francis was discharged, appearing from the hospital window before leaving, waving and giving a thumbs up to a cheering crowd. Even in his weakened state, Pope Francis still offered some surprises: an unannounced visit to Rome's Regina Coeli prison and an appearance to St. Peter's Basilica to pray before the Easter Vigil. On the last day of his life, he met with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and even made the rounds on the Pope-mobile to greet the faithful, roaring with joy. It would be his final farewell.
Omnipotens Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sancti.
Early on Easter Monday, Pope Francis, the first Latin American Pope, passed away at the age of 88.
Con profondo dolore.
With deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father, Francis.
Santo Padre Francesco.
With his death announced on April 21st, Pope Francis marked yet another first in the history of the Catholic Church, becoming the first Pope to open the Holy Door of St. Peter's Basilica without living to close it. During the funeral Mass in St. Peter's Square, Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, Dean of the College of Cardinals, recalled the Pope's mission.
Rich in human warmth and deeply sensitive to today's challenges, Pope Francis truly shared the anxieties, sufferings, and hopes of this time of globalization. He gave of himself by comforting and encouraging us with a message capable of reaching people's hearts in a direct and immediate way.
A sea of people flooded St. Peter's Square. Hundreds of thousands, including cardinals, bishops, priests, world leaders, and the faithful, all gathered to mourn the passing of the 266th Pope of the Catholic Church. In his final public address, the Pope appealed for Gaza and Ukraine. At his funeral, a hopeful sight. In a secluded corner near the entrance doors of the Basilica, the presidents of the US and Ukraine spoke in hushed tones about reviving the efforts to end Russia's war with Ukraine. Pope Francis's pontificate is largely remembered for those pleas for peace. As Pope Francis left St. Peter's Basilica for the last time, people lined the streets to pay tribute to the Holy Father. In a historic procession, the coffin traveled in the Pope-mobile to the Basilica of St. Mary Major to be entombed, a shift in recent tradition. Pope Francis wanted to be buried there instead of the Vatican, due to his deep devotion to Mary and his wish to be accessible to the people. The funeral of Pope Francis marked the official start of the Novem Dialis, the solemn 9-day mourning period, which was followed by the start of the conclave. In Rome, Benedict Sedegren for EWTN News Nightly.